Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Let me get my opening comments out and remind you of the phone number, and then I'm just gonna fire up Axel, my studio producer, with a selection. How many have we got, mate? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 8. It's just under 10. About 8 or 9 little clips from the press conference. Axel has them on a kind of roulette wheel in the studio, and he's just going to press a button. We'll pick a clip at random and then just bounce off the back of it together. So if you want to join in, if you want to book your place on the bounce-a-thon, you know what to do. Can I start with a strange story that I didn't realise was relevant to the conversation we were going to have today until about 10:05, about 3 seconds ago. It's something I was told earlier this week by someone who used to be a political advisor to a former Labour cabinet minister, looking at Tony Blair on the television screen in the background. He served in one of Tony Blair's cabinets. I won't tell you who it is because I haven't double-sourced the story. I've only got it from one source, so it would be unfair to tell you who it is. There you go. #RealNews. And it involved an appearance on the Today programme on Radio 4 by this cabinet minister who was there to talk about his brief, i.e. his department. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that it was defence. But something quite big had broken that day in the arena of, let's say, a Home Office issue like immigration. And they always do the ambush question at the end. You've heard us do it on LBC. You do the reason why the guest is booked, and they go, well, while you're here, Mr. Mayor, when did you last brush your hair? While you're here, Prime Minister, may I just ask what your... While I have your attention, Mr. Miliband, may I just... So you stick it in at the end so they don't walk out at the beginning, and they usually kind of try and bat it away. But this is absolutely fascinating, and... I promise you it is. You're going to have to trust me on this, because what this spad told me, his former political advisor who witnessed it, the story that had broken that morning had broken on the front page of a newspaper. And in the car on the way to the radio studio, listen to this. I think this is just like a nugget, a key that unlocks a lot of the stuff we're talking about together at the moment. In the car on the way to the radio studio, the advisor read the front page story to the minister. Okay? He read the front page story to the minister. Now, when they got to the end of the interview on the wireless, and the interviewer tried to draw the minister's attention to the front page of, let's say, the Times, the minister said, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it. You still with me at the back? He hadn't seen it. They had deliberately read it to him so that he would be in a position, if he wanted to respond to the question about the big story of the day. But if he didn't want to, but somehow still wanted to tell the, quote, truth, he could say, I'm terribly sorry, I haven't seen that story. I haven't seen it. And then, of course, the interviewer is left with no choice but to accept that and say, OK, fair enough. You lying weasel. We'll move on. But he wasn't a lying weasel. And this, it seems to me, as we try to make sense of the strange territories in which we find ourselves together, this cuts to the heart of it, doesn't it? In that now they wouldn't bother doing that. They'd read it and they'd say they hadn't. It's this shift from things that looked like a lie, smelt like a lie, but weren't actually lies. They were technically true. That seems to me to define the last days of the old politics. It's why there's so little trust out there, isn't it? Because you kind of knew you were being lied to, but technically you weren't being lied to. And then Brexit and Trump came along, and whoa, we all piled over into just barefaced lies. Absolute, unapologetic, straight down the line, barefaced lies. Not just about the political issues, but also about your personal life and your private life. The key players on both sides of the Trump and the Brexit movements, absolutely no relationship with or respect for the truth. The simple, unvarnished truth. And I guess what I've just described to you in that cabinet minister interview is what we'll have to call, for the purposes of our time together this morning, varnished truth. So you have unvarnished truth, which is, incontrovertible, demonstrable, and evidence-based. Then you have varnished truth, which is technically true, but not in the spirit of truth. Have you got any comment to make about this story on the front page of the Times today, Minister? Oh, well, I'm terribly sorry, but I haven't seen it. My advisor read it to me in the back of the car, but technically I haven't seen it. And then you got lies. And there's two types of lies. There's the lie that you don't know is a lie, and that can fall into two categories. I don't think Tony Blair knew he was lying when he talked about weapons of mass destruction, for example. I think he had undergone a psychodrama of self-importance and vanity post-Kosovo and Sierra Leone that left him desperate for another military engagement. I also think he was slightly enthralled to George W. Bush. I don't think when he stood up and said the stuff he said about weapons of mass destruction, he thought it was a lie. I think he thought it was an embellishment and an exaggeration that would subsequently come true. A barefaced lie would be to stand up, for example, and say that you'd won the biggest ever electoral college vote, when someone in the audience could just count and tell you that you didn't know. But does Donald Trump know he's lying when he says these things? I interviewed one of his sort of key henchmen the other day, a chap called Roger Stone, and I asked him whether Donald Trump knows whether or not he's lying when he lies. Stone was the guy who came up with the idea that Ted Cruz's father had been involved in the assassination of JFK. Now, remember, this was a man working for Donald Trump who has now launched an attack on dishonest and crooked media. A man who obviously said he'd have locked up Hillary Clinton by now, questioned the circumstances of Barack Obama's birth for the best part of a decade, accused him of not having a birth certificate. I mean, the lies that Donald Trump has told are legion, and the examples he gave yesterday of newspapers in America telling lies about him were zero. The only one I've been able to find was a very swiftly corrected mistake about the location of the Martin Luther King bust in the White House. That's the only one I've been able to find of something that they actually got wrong. But there's two types of lies. There's a mistake when you say something that's untrue and you realise subsequently it was untrue and you correct it. I wouldn't put that down as fake news. Fake news is when you tell a lie with the very deliberate intent of that lie getting halfway around the world before the truth has got his trousers on. So that would include things like the Hillary Clinton aides being involved in the abduction of Madeleine McCann, the paedophile ring allegedly being run by the same aides from a pizza parlor in New York. It would include the idea that Barack Obama was somehow not American, or that he had, as Donald Trump has claimed on the record, that he founded Islamic State, or the claim that Barack Obama wasn't American, that he hadn't been born here, that you could go on with actual lies that the person speaking, or at least the person who originally published, must have known weren't true. This absolutely stone-cold distinction that is being missed deliberately by half of the world and being stared at with a bizarre mix of confusion and fear by the other half of the world. Bill Neely puts it best. Yeah, formerly of ITN, now at NBC. He's retweeted someone else actually this morning, just saying fake news means stories willfully made up by people to go viral, not stories you disagree with. Crucial that. It's not fake news if you disagree with it, and not stories that have mistakes. For Donald Trump, everything that's not PR, he's trying to portray as fake news. And here's the thing, 12 minutes after 10, none of what I've just said matters. None of it matters, because the core support of Donald Trump like being lied to. Very similar to Brexit, which we'll get onto later, but they enjoy the lie because the truth is too complicated and too tough to handle. They like the lie. And what all of those journalists in that room yesterday, or many of those journalists in that room yesterday, missed was how this plays outside of Washington. He might have broken pretty much every promise he made. Hillary Clinton's not going to jail. She's changed into, quote, good people. He's not going to ban every Muslim from America because it's illegal. He said it in his campaign speeches. He's not going to deport 11 million undocumented migrants. He's probably not even going to build a wall. But, of course, if you like the lies, you can still squint a bit and pretend that he is, because he's saying that he is, and everything that goes wrong is the fault of the media. So I like big buts. I cannot lie. And here is one of the biggest buts of all, okay? Donald Trump stood up yesterday and displayed a bizarre mix of inability to discern lies from truth, desperation to cast himself as a victim, and a profound desire to portray the truth-telling elements of the American media as the liars, as opposed to the ones that put out the stories about pizza parlor paedophiles, about Barack Obama's birth certificate. I could go on. They're the bits of the media that tell the truth. But here's the big but. His supporters don't care. Everything I've just said is true. Big but. His supporters don't care. And I would like today, regardless of where you're sitting on this particular seesaw, I'd like to work out why they don't care. I'd like to just pin down why they don't care. Should I pick a clip at random? I know which one I want it to be. I want it to be the one about the electoral college vote, because that would fit with my narrative best, but I'm playing the game straight. This is blind roulette. Play me a clip.
Is it fake news or are these real leaks?
Well, the leaks are real. You're the one that wrote about them and reported them. I mean, the leaks are real. You know what they said. You saw it. And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake.
It's even better, actually. Even better than the real thing. So there you have it. I mean, could you have found a better distillation of what I just spent 14 minutes boring you blind with? The leaks are real, right? The leaks are real. The leaks coming out of the White House, coming out of this chaotic White House, they are real. But the news reports describing the contents of the leaks, they're fake. Now, this is the big but, right? Because theoretically, realistically, in any kind of recognisable universe, we all laugh now. Maybe some of us sort of feel a frisson of fear that this fella's got the nuclear codes, but in everything, up until the middle of last year, up until sort of April, May of last year, I would have presumed that 95% of people with a functioning brain, with a cerebral cortex, would laugh at that. The leaks are real, but the news is fake. It's actually hilarious, isn't it? Big but. Half the country doesn't care. Or the core support, however big it turns out to be, can watch this man say, yeah, the leaks are real, the information is true, but when you read it in a newspaper, it's fake. I didn't imagine that. Go on, give me that. Can you do it again, or is it just going to randomise again?
Well, the leaks are real. You're the one that wrote about them and reported them. I mean, the leaks are real. You know what they said. You saw it. And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake.
Okay, so why doesn't that finish his career, is the question I would ask. I mean, it's a contradiction of such epic proportion that by every rule that I try to teach my children about telling the truth and actions having consequences, he should be on the naughty step for the rest of his life. But he's not. And I completely agree with people who say the punters don't care. His core support doesn't care. They like being lied to. But when a lie is as egregious as that, I think we have a responsibility as you know, functioning humans to work out why. Why? How can he get... Why don't these interventions finish him in the way that they would any other conventional politician? I have one answer, but it's ugly, and I'd rather not pull it out until I've heard some of yours. Right, phone lines are open. 0345 6060973 is the number that you need. That's the best example of that little clip. It happened by accident. I thought I had some better ones lined up. We'll randomise them. We'll hit more roulette buttons in a minute. But the news is fake, and the leaks are real. Riddle me this. 10:17. Just quickly, the other thing I've done this week, interviewing a Trump supporter from America who described a campaign of vilification against him, and I asked her for some examples. And there weren't any. Actual published lies in the American media, demonstrable untruths about him. But it doesn't matter, because when he says on the podium that there are lots of lies around, big butt time. But punters don't care. Right, randomise.
We had Hillary Clinton give Russia 20% of the uranium in our country. You know what uranium is, right? It's a thing called nuclear weapons and other things. Like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things.
Oh, go on. Makes me nostalgic for my physics GCSE. Let's have another listen.
We had Hillary Clinton give Russia 20% of the uranium in our country. You know what uranium is, right? It's a thing called nuclear weapons and other things. Like lots of things are done with uranium, including some bad things.
Oh, yeah. Including some bad things. So big but again. So you listen to that and then you go, yeah, but I still like it. How does that happen? Explain. Jackie's in Midhurst. Jackie, you can kick us off this morning. Good luck.
Good morning. I'm still laughing and I really shouldn't. James, good morning.
Hello.
I rarely disagree with you,
dear.
but on this I'm going to. I actually think that they really do believe him. I don't think that they're ignoring lies. I truly think they believe him, which is actually...
But how can they believe that the leaks are real but the news is fake? the news about the leaks is fake, but the leaks themselves are real. I don't. I mean, I think probably it's psychologically more complicated than I've allowed. But just to use that example, which came up randomly on the randomizer, how can they believe that? They can't believe both. Either the leaks are real, or the news is fake. The news about the real leaks.
You're applying logic.
Yes.
And I think it's out the window. It's out the window. I spend an unhealthy amount of time looking at America at the moment and talking to Americans at the moment. And logic is out of the window. I have tried to apply it. I have tried to understand what's going on. And it doesn't add up. And I think that they have... they were fed all the Hillary stuff. They hated Hillary. They hate politicians. They're all liars. And they've compartmentalized everything. So everything is just so divided.
But even the 20% line is untrue. It's been debunked several times. It came from a Breitbart editor apparently called Peter Schweitzer. Has been repeated a lot by right-wing media, but completely debunked by other sources. That I'd give you. I'd say, look, maybe they do believe it. They just haven't bothered Googling it or fact-checking it or researching it. So a lot of the stuff that's untrue, I think you're right. They don't think he's lying. But on that one there, it's all very well saying you're applying logic. Talk me through the psychological process that allows someone to believe that a leak is real, but a report about the leak is fake.
I just think that they've become frenzied. I spent quite a lot of time in America during the campaign, and I did a sort of 2,000-mile road trip right through the middle of, in inverted commas, redneck America, real Central America.
You should have been filing for us, Jackie. Seriously, don't let that happen again.
I would have loved to, yeah. And I was with people that I realised would have voted for Trump, and I just think they are so geographically isolated, so socially isolated, so politically isolated, so culturally isolated, economically isolated. I mean, they are so poor. I think this is what a lot of people don't realise about America.
And it's just acknowledging their existence that's the big but then.
I think that when you live in the middle of nowhere, I mean, like I was in North Dakota, you're living in the middle of nowhere, then actually being selfish is an asset. You don't have to mix with people socially. What you get is yours, and you look after it. There's no relation to life in cities.
But nobody acknowledged their existence prior to that. And you can talk about the economy booming, which it is. You can talk about unemployment plummeting, which it is. But people who are living hand to mouth in this country, it'd be 0-hour contracts and ludicrous working conditions. But the politicians could say employment's great. What's everybody so unhappy about? And then Brexit comes around and bites them on the backside, because for an awful lot of people, life's a little bit rubbish. And Donald Trump, again, with abject dishonesty, said to them, "I'll help you," and then filled his cabinet with Goldman Sachs staff.
Absolutely.
Do you want to press the button on the randomizer, Jackie?
Go on.
Go on.
Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine, despite the fact that I can't get my cabinet approved.
Can't argue that.
Do I weep or do I laugh?
This is a fine-tuned machine, despite the fact that I can't get my cabinet appointed. This, of course, a few hours before his replacement pick for National Security Advisor turned the job down. This Volvo, I shall say, later this weekend as I wind my way through the streets of West London, except I won't be winding my way. This Volvo is running like a fine-tuned machine, despite the fact that 3 of the 4 wheels have now fallen off. 0345 60600973. Give me the big but. But, because all of this evidence, we sit here, smug, liberal elites, educated, patting each other on the back. Oh, it's so funny. But people will listen to these lies and not be persuaded that they're lies, somehow choosing to believe them. Give me the why. Is it simply the acknowledgement of the existence of the dispossessed? Or have we got something else going on here? Something that he has offered people that they're not prepared to admit is so seductive that they're going to overlook everything else, because possibly the exchanges with the Jewish journalist and the black female journalist, possibly that hinted at what he's given people that they are so delighted to have received, they're going to overlook everything else. James is in Gravesend. James, what's going on?
Hello, how are you doing, James? You all right?
Very well, mate. What's on your mind?
I've got a butt for you. That clip that you have put out.
Yeah.
It's a bit, you know, you twisted that whole situation, because if you would have carried on with that clip, he said, yeah, right.
Which clip, James? The one about the uranium, the one about the finely tuned machine, or the one about the fake news but real leaks?
The fake news.
Okay.
And real leaks.
I haven't twisted it in the sense of, I mean, it's shorter than the whole 76 minutes.
You've what it is, you've put in, he said, yeah, it's real leaks, fake news.
Yeah.
But the time the media have finished with the real leaks, it is fake news. And if you would have carried on with what, you know, listened to what he was saying,
yes,
that's exactly what he said.
Well, I heard the whole speech
that you put on LBC.
Well, hang on. Let's remind. It's not me that's made it look stupid, James. Let's remind ourselves of the clip you're referring to.
Well, the leaks are real. You're the one that wrote about them and reported them. I mean, the leaks are real. You know what they said. You saw it. And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake.
Okay, the news is fake because so much of the news is fake. The leaks are real. You know that because you wrote about them and reported them. You're going to have to unpick me. You're going to have to help me out here, James.
So what he's trying to say, that the leaks are real, but the time the media have finished with it, it's fake.
Well, so which bits are fake then?
What the media have twisted. What he's trying to say is the media twist the leaks.
How?
So if they've just got one paragraph of the truth,
no, they've got the full transcripts of the conversations. Listen, I don't want to press you, but you've got to give me an example of what you mean. They've got the full transcripts of the conversation. He said to the journalists that wrote the stories, you know the leaks are real. James, hang on, mate. This is important. He said to the journalists that wrote the stories, you know the leaks are real. You guys reported them, but the news is fake. So just give me a bit of help. And I appreciate this isn't your profession, but at what point did it become fake in your opinion? Well, give me an example of something that's not true that got reported.
I understand where he's coming from. I really do. I understand, because I not hate the media, but I dislike them, I distrust them, because, you know, especially the BBC.
That's fine, but I'm going to just ask you once more. Can you just tell me something that has been published in America about these leaks that's not true?
Well, I've not dig deep into the leaks. But
no, it's not the leaks. The leaks are real. It's the fake news I want to hear about.
Coming from.
Yeah.
I understand where he's coming from. What he was trying to say was the time the media finished with it, they twisted it. And
precisely. So show me the twist. Where is the report that contains something about the leaks that's not true? Because he didn't have a single example.
I've not dig deep into what the leaks are about.
Right.
What I've rang up to say is, this is what the media do. They twist things, and they make.
But we haven't found a single twist.
No, but this is what the media does.
No, but we haven't found a single twist.
He's got it in with CNN. CNN's got so much hate.
Okay, that's what he said. That's what he said. Who would you point at first at CNN in this example of someone who's expressed hatred of Donald Trump?
Oh, I'll tell you, I'll watch CNN. The fella with the grey hair, the hate that comes from him.
So give me an example. What's he?
They put a whole panel in of the left. that hate him.
Okay, but this is what Donald Trump said yesterday. This is what he said yesterday. You're quoting him.
What do you mean?
You're quoting Donald Trump. You're just repeating what he says.
No, what he was trying to say, what he was saying is that the media twist it, and I know they do.
Yeah, but you can't show me. Just show me a twist. One twist.
Okay, if I'm not dig deep into the leaks.
But surely you have to dig deep before you arrive at a conclusion about what's going on.
Well, I only saw it last night. So,
yeah, but you're certain that he's twisted. All right, listen.
I'll tell you what. Yeah. I will dig deep tonight, and I will phone you back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not on tomorrow. It's 10:32. So the notion that the media are somehow vilifying Donald Trump is rather hard to pin down. They're criticising a lot of what he does, but the idea that the tone is more important than the facts is one that he's desperate to get around the world. There is a reputable, I believe, news source called The Federalist in America that has put together 16 fake news stories that reporters have run since Trump won. But if I tell you that number one is a tweeted rumour about a spike in transgender suicide rates that got picked up by some members of the media and was reported as a rumour, as rumours, rather than as recorded fact, you'll see it doesn't quite fit in to fake news in the sense of something that's been deliberately made up with the intention of it going viral. But still, I mean, it's important to get these things out there. Another one, and these are the top 16, you've got the spike in transgender suicide rates. Then there's a tri-state election hacking conspiracy that Nate Silver of 538 shot down within 24 hours of it being published in New York Magazine. So again, it's what proper journalism does. Some of the other examples, the 27-cent foreclosure story, Nancy Sinatra's complaint about the inaugural ball, something about Betsy DeVos being asked whether or not schools should have guns on their campuses. But if you read into all of these stories, the reason why you can report that they have been debunked is because they have been publicly debunked. Donald Trump's claim that Hillary Clinton gave 20% of American uranium to Vladimir Putin is false. It's demonstrably false. And yet he repeats it from the podium. So I don't think you've really got an equivalence here. Anyway, let's play the game. Errol's in Woolwich. Errol, do you want to talk first or press the button?
No, I'll have a go at talking first.
Go on.
I watched that youth conference yesterday, and I was just like you. It's like watching a car crash happen slowly in front of you. I just had to sit down.
It's funnier than a car crash. Apart from the interventions from the Jewish journalist and the black lady journalist, it was hilarious.
Well, it's hilarious, but also frightening because
Yes.
you think this is the leader of the free world, supposed to be, and this is supposed to be the most powerful man on the planet. And it was just unbelievable. I had to sit down and watch this and hear what he thinks. Some of the bits were almost laughable. I mean, the antics that he used to describe the journalists and the sort of copycat, you know.
Yes, but it works. So we need the big but, because we can sit here and laugh and giggle and get scared and console each other and marvel until the cows come home.
Absolutely.
Big but time, Errol. But people still, you heard the last caller, I don't know how representative he is of other people who think Trump's right but can't even offer up a scintilla of evidence to prove it. They're out there, and there's loads of them. Why don't they see what you see?
Well, here's the thing. I think two points I'm going to try and answer with you.
Yeah.
The first point is as to why these Trump supporters here. I think in America, and this is going for America, that you've got a lot of people out there who are disillusioned, completely disillusioned, and in a way, it's the way how Barack Obama came in, because people were disillusioned with the system that was there, the old path, the constant.
That doesn't work though. Not that doesn't. I mean, you're right up to a point, but it's believing lies that are shown to be lies and then choosing still to believe the liar.
Yeah, this is my point. What I'm trying to say is,
sorry.
Trump came in making a promise, albeit falsely or whatever he's trying to do. He said, I want to bring back jobs. I want to make America great. And people gravitated to that promise. Now,
but again, the evidence the evidence is
they put away the lies because they want to hang on to that dream of bringing back jobs and making America great again. They're so disillusioned.
But that doesn't mean anything.
No, I know today, but it's a dream. It's like, here's a dream. People go on to they play the lottery because they dream about winning, the 17 millions or whatever it is. The chance of them doing it, a chance of happening, are 14 million to 1 or something.
So this is the equivalent, politically speaking, of buying a lottery ticket based upon your chances of winning. That's what we're doing. Well, no one would ever buy a lottery ticket again, would they?
Well, the thing is, people do. People keep on.
That's my point. You're a genius. You're a genius.
But here's the thing, though. The other thing.
Go on.
In terms of the leak.
Leaks plural.
Yeah, the leak with a term out.
Are we talking about the Russian dossier now, or are we talking about what sort of leaks are we discussing here, Errol?
Well, the comment
okay.
When he said,
yes.
the leaks are false.
No, the leaks are real, mate. Keep up. The news is false.
That's it. Now, the reason why, and I get him on this one. I do get him on this
Go on.
Because what he's saying is that the information being leaked out is real. but the information that is actually contained within those leaks is false.
No, he's not saying that.
That's what I took from it. From what
It's not. He's saying the leaks are real. He said you reported it. You know it's real. These things happened. These conversations occurred. That's why Flynn had to go. I mean, if it wasn't real, he wouldn't have had to resign. It's only when it reaches the newspapers that it somehow becomes fake. Errol, I'm taking your lottery analogy and I'm passing it off as my own for the foreseeable future. Before you go, can you spin the wheel for me?
Go on then, Spin.
Tomorrow they will say, Donald Trump rants and raves at the press. I'm not ranting and raving. I'm just telling you, you're dishonest people.
Brilliant.
Have a great day, Errol. Stephanie is in Wimborne. Stephanie, what would you like to say?
Oh, hi, James.
Hello.
Thanks so much for taking my call. Love your show.
You're very welcome, especially now.
Yeah. I'm an American. I moved here about 12 years ago. Love living in England. I voted in the election and just thought I would give you a little bit of background of how I see Trump supporters not taking any of the facts about him lying seriously or even, kind of completely disregarding.
I think everyone can agree on this. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. And I think it's because rural conservatives and a lot of Trump supporters truly feel that their world, the world as they know it, is under siege. They look at Democrats as an enemy to be feared, to be loathed, and they're part of a real growing movement in America.
And here.
It's not just, and here, and it's being reinforced not only in the news that they listen to, but also at home and in their church environments, and it's just really stressing these core contemporary conservative values.
Under siege, Stephanie, from whom?
The Democrats, from the other side, from the people that don't see the world as they do, for someone that, people that are pro-choice, for people that believe in equality, for the LGBT community. They look at those values as a siege on about how they're thinking religiously. And so they look at Trump as someone that is going to stand up for them and these core values. So because of that, and I say to you and to all the listeners, turn on Fox News. You can get it here in the UK.
They've started criticizing him now.
Maybe.
No, they did. What's the guy's name? Oh, come on. I can't remember. But he straight after the press conference yesterday was almost spluttering with what Smith? Jep Smith, who one of their big anchors, I said. There's a lot of competition at Fox News. He was saying, I can't believe how much untruth comes out of his mouth. Now, you turn on Fox and Friends in the morning and you got a bunch of people in a row going, he's great, he's fantastic, don't mention the lies, don't mention the lies.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I was thinking of, and I'm really glad to hear that there is someone coming out, putting some opposing views out there, because it's so important, because so many people in America are only getting their news from Fox. I'm telling you, they don't watch anything else. Which is currently being run after the last fellow had to step down amid allegations of sexual impropriety. Fox News in America is currently being run on a day-to-day basis, Stephanie, by... Well, by Trump supporters.
By Rupert Murdoch.
Oh gosh, no.
Yes.
I didn't even realize that. Okay. Well, in any.
That's why you listen to me, Stephanie.
It is. You're my salvation. But the point I'm trying to make is that for maybe the average person, they're getting ready for work in the morning, they're turning on Fox and Friends for a couple of minutes, they're seeing the little headline on the bottom that's probably quoting Trump, my administration's working like a fine-tuned machine. And they're seeing that going across, because he did say that. That's real news.
He did say that, and he didn't mention, a few hours later, his national security advisor's second pick has withdrawn from the race because he just doesn't fancy the job. The Labour Secretary's withdrawn from the race because of the scandal surrounding him. The first appointment for the National Security Advisor job has had to tender his resignation after lying to the Vice President. But you're absolutely right. Some people will say it is a fine-tuned machine, and anybody who says it isn't, with all that pesky evidence, is a liar and a traitor. And that's the next stage, isn't it? We're seeing it a little bit with Brexit. Dissent becomes treason. Ignorance is strength.
Yes. 100%. But it's like, so the question is, how does the country come together? How do we reach the people that are in that mindset? Because I have, most of my family is that way, to be honest.
Yes.
And it's so worrying. And you want to just go in there and say, but this is how it is. These are the facts. Can't you see? He said this about the Electoral College, and it's right here in black and white. It's not true. But they don't care. But the bigger question is, how are we going to come together so that we can open up the lines of communication again, because
beautifully put.
I'm
Well,
worried.
if your analysis is correct, then you only brought in abortion and homosexuality, gay rights. You didn't bring in race. I would add race to that toxic cocktail. It's as if the poison that he's pouring into their ears is so seductive, and this notion of political correctness having tamped down on these ancient hatreds for so long, nothing else matters except the belief in their minds that they're allowed to be like that again.
I know, but there's got to be a way.
And then you see how he talked to the Jewish journalist, and you see how he talked to the black journalist, and you kind of think that's what those people are going to take out of that news conference. Look at him, he's telling the Jew to sit down, and presuming that the black woman knows every black politician in Congress, because that's how black people operate. And they won't hear any of the rest of it. None of it at all. Stephanie, thank you. We don't have time for you to spin the wheel. If you want to stay on the line, you can spin it after the travel news, but I'll understand if you've got more important things to attend to. Stephanie's led us back to where we were yesterday on a completely different subject. In fact, so different, I can't even remember what the subject was. But the most important thing to happen now is this distinction between the people who are determined to be, the people who are a little bit disgusting, and the people who are decent but discomforted by the world in which they find themselves. I don't know how you make the difference between the two. An awful lot of people who like Donald Trump are decent but discomforted by their current situation. They are not all chomping racists, homophobes, mad people. They are just desperate, if you like. But they're being led by the nose by the people who are disgusting, and I don't know how you separate them. I really don't. That's the challenge that we face. Should we spin the wheel before we go to Bradford? Yeah, spin the wheel.
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Hispanic
Well, I would.
Caucus,
I tell you what. Do you want to set up the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of
I'm
yours?
Just a reporter.
No, set up the meeting.
I know some of
Because
them,
she's
but I'm
black.
sure
Let's
they're
go set up a
watching.
meeting. I would love to meet with the Black Caucus. I think it's great, the Congressional Black Caucus. I think it's great.
They sent in a request for a meeting with the president, I think, within days of him achieving office, so around about a month ago. But a black lady stands up and says they'd like to talk to you. Are you going to talk to them? And he, because she's black too, says maybe you could set it up. Yeah. Simon's in Bradford. Simon, what have you got?
Morning, James.
Hello, mate.
I've just turned you on this morning, and I've just.
Well, hang on. That's a bit previous, mate.
Well,
it's just the way I'm sitting.
Hey, there you go. I've just turned you on this morning. I've said the last couple of calls, so I hope I'm on point. I'm a lefty, and I hate Trump. That's my.
No prizes for that, mate. No prizes for that.
Well, yeah. I listen to you. Of course I am. Of course I do. But I hate to say it. What he's done with this fake news thing is really quite brilliant.
Absolutely.
I hate me to say it because he's a showman and he's preaching to his people now. He's talking to his people. He's not bothered about winning over Democrats. He's not bothered about convincing you. He's not bothered about convincing me. He's just bothered about speaking to his people and telling them what they want to hear. And if he's got to come back to whatever it may be, to whatever factual it is, anything that's negative that's out there about him, if his comeback is fake news, it's nonsense, it's fake news, it's not there, and people want to hear that, I don't know how we get around it, James. I don't know how we get over that and how we get around it. And I've got to give it to him.
Well, we need to work out what's on the other end of the scales. I agree with you. I don't know how deliberate it is and how much is down to the people pulling his strings as opposed to him himself. But the performance yesterday was off the cuff. It was all him. He knows what he's doing. I guess as someone that's made a lot of money out of, essentially selling pigs in lipstick and pretending that they're really desirable products. He knows exactly how gullible the public is and how much money he can make out of them, which I still think is his motivating force. But you need to work out what's on the other edge of the scale. So, Stephanie described people who feel that their values, i.e. their desire to tell gay people not to be gay, to tell women not to have abortions, to tell black people not to seek equality, that somehow he's revivified that. But that portrays all of his support as toxic, and it can't be. So the ones that aren't toxic are getting the idea that he's going to improve their lives. They've invested so much in that belief that is not true that you make their lives worse by winning the argument, Simon. That's why it's so clever.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, and I've got to give him another compliment as well through clenched teeth.
Yes.
That he managed to convince the Rust Belt workers and the outer workers in Detroit and everybody else that this guy born into spectacular wealth, this horrible specimen was going to do something for them. This man that happily...
Don't talk like that. Let's do that. Let's make that agreement first. I'm guilty of this as well, but let's not talk like that. Let's not describe him in those terms, because that feeds the fire, doesn't it? Here is a businessman and reality television star who's become president. Let's just call him that. Let's not call him any more names. Because that feeds the fire. That's what he's playing into. That's what he means by tone.
Yeah, you got me on that. I'll give him that. I'll give him that. But you see what I mean? And,
of course.
You know, the truth of this, James, is you and I could have a debate now on this station, and you could take me to the cleanest factually. But if my only comeback and my every comeback's fake, no, it's fake, nonsense, no, it's fake.
You're part of the problem. You're the reason why we voted for Trump. People like you, hate crimes are because of all the people who
Exactly.
detest hate crimes. You're responsible for the hate crimes by calling out hate crimes. Western politics has been distilled on one side of most fences to this simple observation that we all remember from our school days, Simon. I know I am. No, I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, and that's fake news. Fake news. I know you are, but what am I? Crooked media. Do you want to spin the wheel, Simon, before you go?
Yeah, give it a spin.
Go on, then.
There are people who are committing anti-Semitic acts or threatening...
You see, he said he was going to ask a very simple,
there's
easy
nothing
question.
funny about this one, friend.
And it's
nothing
not.
funny at all.
It's not a simple question, not a fair question. Okay, sit down. I understand the rest of your question. So here's the story, folks. Number one, I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen in your entire life. Number two, racism. The least racist person. In fact, we did very well relative to other people running as a Republican. Quiet. I hate the charge.
That was a Jewish gentleman in a yarmulke being spoken to by Donald Trump in a way that I don't believe he speaks to anybody else, possibly the black journalist he spoke to later. Trying to stand up, trying to clarify his question, went to great pains to say no one thinks you're anti-Semitic, we're on your side, but there have been 48 reported bomb threats to synagogues since you became president. Would you like to say anything about them? Quiet, sit down. Nothing funny there. 10:58 is the time. Bradford to Leeds, crikey. We're going to have a Yorkshire Civil War. Ian's in Leeds. Ian, what would you like to say?
Hi, yeah. Yeah, what do I want to say?
You're supposed to have crystallised this before you ring in here.
No, because there's so much I want
to say. Where do you start? Should have been the question, shouldn't it?
I mean, there's an old saying, isn't there? It's easy to fool them.
Oh, mate, after that top quality bants, I've got to stop saying that as well. The phone line's gone south.
Afternoon to you. Did you see Donald Trump's press conference, I should say, yesterday on in the evening about 7 o'clock our time? President Trump. If you didn't see it, you'll probably have heard about it today, and I know that James played a number of sections of the speech this morning and discussed it with you. But what struck me about it, and what bothered me most about it, was, I mean, he talked about tone, didn't he, in one of his various ramblings. He talked about his concerns over the tone of how things are reported. So where you throw a fact at him, he complains about the tone in which you've given him the facts. When you prove that his so-called facts are not facts, he says, oh, whoops, someone told me, which isn't exactly, a rigorous defense of the words that come out of your own mouth. But there you go. He seems to get away with it for now. His press conference was meant to be about the arrival of a new Minister for Labour, and Alexandra Acosta. And instead, he got about 2 mentions in the whole very long press conference, in the whole process of it. This was a president focused entirely on his own bad press. And if you are somebody who is vulnerable in the United States, or voted for him because you believed what he said he would do for you in the United States, I think it's worth remembering that that's what that press conference was all about. It was the focus on himself, his figures, his popularity, which he insisted on saying that as president he was still incredibly popular when all the polls show the absolute opposite. I want to get a sense from you. I mean, I've already made it clear what I think he's unstable. I think he's malign. I don't think he's insane. I don't think he's suffering from mental illness. I'm not equipped to diagnose whether he is or he isn't, but my sense is that he isn't. I think he's dangerous, is what I think. And what I want to know from you is whether you think he'll still be president by Christmas. I'm beginning to think he won't. David Mellor, former Conservative minister, you might think it's still there, actually. He wrote a blog on the LBC website in which he said he doesn't think he'll last the term. But do you think he'll still be there by Christmas? 0345 606 0973 is the number to call. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. Now, there were a lot of journalists trying to get questions asked yesterday by the president. This is what one Washington correspondent, CNN's chief Washington correspondent, Jake Tapper, thought of the whole affair.
A lot of Americans are going to watch that press conference and think, that guy is not focused on me. I don't even know what he's focused on. Everybody at home just needs to ask themselves, how would you react if that were your boss coming in and giving a speech to the employees where you work? How would you react if that was somebody in your family that you were trying to have a conversation with? You would think this is very difficult to assess in a positive way. The person is not dealing with the world in which we live. He said things that weren't true. He was called out by one reporter. You said you had the biggest electoral victory since Reagan. That's not true. And he said, well, somebody gave me that information. Somebody gave me that information. The buck stops there? Is that where we are with this presidency? You said it. Own the words. You were wrong. But it's not just about electoral votes. It's about the fact that he's still fixated on whether or not he legitimately won the presidency. President Trump, if you're watching, you're the president. You legitimately won the presidency. Now get to work and stop whining about it.
Well, Jan Halper-Hayes joins me, member of Trump's transition team and former worldwide vice president of Republicans overseas. Good afternoon to you, Jan.
Good afternoon, Sheila.
Is he dealing with the world in which we live? Jake Tapper says he isn't.
Well, Jake might have a different world, but there are an enormous amount of people that think that Trump is doing a very good job because he's been living up to his campaign promises. And instead, people want to focus that he got this number wrong or that. They want to make him a liar and he's inaccurate and he's got to get the facts, every single fact right. He's got to be a perfect human being. And no one is really talking about what he's accomplished. And he's accomplished quite a bit.
Well, the thing is, he didn't seem to want to talk about what he'd accomplished. He just wanted to talk quite narcissistically about himself. That's the concern.
Well, we didn't take it as narcissistically because actually I thought it was a tour de force and he needed to put the media on the defensive because he's absolutely right. There are some who are creating fake news. There are some who don't report what really is going on, and they make a big deal about Russia, but they don't give the facts. They don't give the facts because they don't have the facts because we don't know what really took place.
But when they have questions, and, you know, as a journalist, I've spent my life asking questions. I'm doing it now, and you're managing to answer me rigorously and honestly, and, well, I presume honestly, and clearly. You're not telling me to shush. You're not asking me to leave the room if we were in the same room, and yet he does that. He regards questions as an attack. A question is a question. Answer it.
Well, you know, if you look back over how the press treats Republicans and has treated Republican presidents, it is as if they're a piñata, and it's just how hard can we hit you? And I think yesterday he actually played whack-a-mole with the press. You know, we do not get a fair shake as Republicans in the media.
Donald Trump closed down so many of those questions. You think of the Jewish reporter who asked the question and was impeccably polite, didn't try to attach any anti-Semitism claims to Donald Trump, but asked him to address the issue of an uptick, as he called it, a rise in anti-Semitic incidents. And he just shut him down and said it was a terrible question. It wasn't. It was a sincere, politely put question. Why did he shut him down?
I think he didn't hear that one correctly.
Oh, come on, Jan.
You know what? I think he took it personally. I do.
But the man's opening comments were, "We have never suggested you're anti-Semitic."
Right. No, I'm with you, and it doesn't mean that he is not unlike any other human being that mishears. And I think he misheard. Frankly, I thought he, on one hand, he went in there very open about how upset he was with the media coverage, because there has not been positive media coverage. I can't tell you how many articles are on the Trump administration is going to fail, the failure of the Trump administration. Well, you know what? You have no idea how hard it was for the Republican politicians to live under Obama and get up and go to work every day knowing they weren't going to accomplish anything for their constituency. They are so busy working on things and so excited to be doing things for our country and for our people.
Which is, I hope that's true, and I hope that they have as much success as it's possible for an administration to have. But the reality of Obama's administration, made evident by a BBC documentary called Obama's Washington, in which the man himself was spoken to, and in which the processes of your great country were revealed, showed that any president faces a tough time because politics in America is strong and muscular, and Donald Trump has to expect the same.
Well, Donald Trump can definitely expect the same. And also, he doesn't have to worry about it for the next 2 years because we have a Republican White House, a Republican Congress, and a Republican Senate. So they're going to be able to get a lot of things done. And then what will happen in 2018 is we will know if the people are pleased with it or not, because they vote in midterms when they're happy or unhappy. And then we'll see. Because I can tell you that the voters were not happy with Obama, because over the 8 years, they lost over 900 Democratic state legislators. They lost 13 Democratic governors. They lost 69 House
I agree
of
with you.
Reps
No, I agree with you. I don't doubt what you say. Yeah, no, clearly, America had enough of Barack Obama, and in terms of how they went and voted, and they'd had enough of the Democrats. That's self-evident. As Jake Tapper was saying, you are the president, Mr. Trump, so go and be the president. Why does he pepper all of his communication and with those? I mean, I did it as a kind of light-hearted intro earlier on. I'm a good person. I know stuff you don't know. I get told things. People love me. People like me. I have no deals with Russia. I'm the least anti-Semitic person you'll ever meet. I get more calls than any other presenter. I was saying that kind of thing to mirror the way Donald Trump peppers his communication. Jan, you're an intelligent woman. You know that's odd.
Well, actually, I wouldn't use the term odd.
What would you describe it as?
All right, I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and one of the things that people love about him is that he is authentic. What you see is what you get. I think one of the reasons that people also do not like him and find him problematic is because what you see is what you get. So it is called warts and all. You see his insecurities. You see that he's a human being, and people don't want the leader of our great nation to have any faults.
No, that's not true. Well, certainly not true in my case. As I discussed this with you, my fear about that strange, almost Tourette-style stuff he has, where he just keeps saying these little things about himself the whole time, is that it's all about him.
Well, the one concern I have that I hear is that he has a really, really short attention span, and that concerns me, although people that have worked with him for a long time have learned how to manage that and how to keep him focused. Or I understand that Reince Priebus is doing an excellent job, that when he does get on his tangents, that Reince brings things back. But he does tend to get on tangents, really long tangents.
So he's got attention deficit.
Well, I don't know. But
that's worrying, isn't it, Jan?
Well, no, it's not. It's not worrying. My goodness, I think anyone listening who has attention deficit disorder would just, feel horrible if we said that.
No, I'm not saying he has attention deficit disorder. I'm saying he has a deficit of attention. You began by saying that he has a short attention span. Yes, but if you have a man or a woman sitting in that chair in the Oval Office, and the entire team has to constantly, metaphorically anyway, click their fingers at him or her and say, "Come on, keep up, focus." You want the American president to be focused on the people, not on his ratings.
All right, but let's not take it negatively. One of the reasons he has such a short attention span is he grasps things very quickly and wants to move on. But because he has lived a different life, he's run his own business, he's grown his own business, he's been basically an entrepreneur and very, very famous and revered. So when people are revered, they don't get challenged for their behavior. He is facing some of that now. He hasn't worked really with a team consistently every single day, meeting, discussing these issues. But I really have faith in him, because I have watched how he started out, knew nothing about politics. When he saw that he wasn't achieving things, he found the right people, brought the right people in, and
they're now running America.
Well, some he fired, and some are, well, I wouldn't say they're running America, but I sure hope that our cabinet secretaries, along with Donald Trump, are all running America.
All right. Jan, good to talk to you. Thank you, Jan Halper-Hayes, a member of Donald Trump's transition team, former worldwide vice president of Republicans overseas. She talked about the next 2 years, Jan, that he's sitting pretty for the next 2 years, she thinks, and can get on with the job. Is he? Do you think he'll still be there by Christmas?
LBC with Shelagh Fogarty. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
After 2:30, we'll talk to the reporter, the Jewish reporter who confronted Donald Trump at the conference last night, who asked him, actually confronted is not the right way of describing it, asked him a very simple question and was himself confronted by a man telling him to sit down and be quiet. But we'll talk to him after 2:30. My question to you this hour, in the light of that press conference yesterday of Donald Trump, which lasted well over an hour, is do you think he'll still be president by Christmas? 0345 6060 973 is the number. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. Millions of us here hope this dangerous man will be gone by Christmas, sooner if possible, says Linda. The problem is the GOP is still here afterwards, the grand old party, the Republicans. Peter Loughran, did that woman really just say Trump misheard, referring to the Jewish journalist's question? And dreadful answers from the Republican you just had interviewed. I'm really not sure she knew what she was talking about. She sounded as clueless as Kellyanne Conway. And one more here. Sheila tells woman contributor, you're an intelligent woman. If Donald Trump said that, he'd be called patronising to women. No, he wouldn't. I was saying you're an intelligent woman because the previous thing she just said beggared belief, which is why I did that for emphasis. But thank you for your text anyway. Let's hear from Michael in Southwark. Hi, Michael.
Yes, hello there. Hi.
Hi, I'm really popular in Southwark. I'm very big in Southwark. So big.
Yes, no,
people love me there.
I wanted to agree with the point that he's a dangerous man. He's a frightening man. I was listening to James this morning, and especially I was looking at the transcript of this press conference last night. I read the whole thing in absolute horror, and I kept thinking, what does his style remind me of? Who does he remind me of? He's a demagogue for sure, but strange as it may seem, he started, the person that came into my head was Jim Jones. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that name means much to you, but, it probably does. But we're going back to 1978. These people are very charismatic. They are highly narcissistic. And more than anything, they want to be powerful and to prevail. And, he's a frightening character. There's no doubt about it. And it seems that the world is in a dangerous place.
So when you see him, you see Jim Jones was a cult leader. You see a kind of a cult leader, do you, rather than a political leader?
Well, I think it's the linguistic style, the rambling, the narcissism, the strange kind of tropes of language, the avoidance of so many things. And it's just a linguistic style. It's just the very bizarre way that he's carrying on. And America seems to be dazzled by money and power. And it beggars belief. It's like something from a science fiction novel.
What I find odd is that when I watched it, as you did, I mean, you read the transcript. When I watched it, I just thought, if I agreed with every word this man said on politics, I'd still be looking at this with my jaw hitting the floor, because it's, he talked about the tone of the journalism that's sent his way. and how he didn't like the tone of some of the articles being written about him. But I just looked at the manner in which this man communicates, and the quiet, sit down, shut up and sit down, and sneering at people's, the outlet or the newspaper that they work for. This is just, it's just coarse bullying. And if I agreed with everything he said about foreign policy and domestic policy, I would still be thinking, this man is not fit to hold a public role like this.
No, he's not.
It's not about agreeing with him. It's about just thinking, come on.
I don't think he understands the political landscape at all. I mean, I think that what you're looking at is aggression and money and his wealth and his aggression have got him to where he is. And I think people are still reeling to believe that he's really there, and it's not a game show. It could only happen in America, where money speaks louder than everything. And then when he's in trouble and on the ropes, he then turns to religion. I mean, it is extremely worrying.
I'll leave it there, if I may, Michael, with you. Michael in Southwark. Mark has called from Loughton. Mark, you're convinced he'll do not just the full term, but another term.
Yeah, I'm convinced he'll do full 8 years, yes.
Because?
Well, because I think he's a very good president. He speaks, he tells it like it is. He's dealing with America's problems first and foremost. He's hit the ground running. He said that he's going to bring back jobs to the Midwest, Ohio, Iowa, around that area where a lot of jobs have gone, particularly in steel and coal mining. I happen to know there's been since he's been president, there's been a $700 million investment in the coal mining industry up there in that area to bring back the coal mines that were closed down by Obama's administration.
And the thing is, Mark, that press conference was a perfect opportunity for him to tell us about his achievements. Are you concerned even slightly that what he did instead is just say how great he was?
Right. I did explain to the switchboard. I didn't see the whole of the press conference last night. I only caught the headline of it.
Well, Mark, I would suggest, with respect, that you do. I mean, take the time because it's interesting and it's important of our times, But given that you're clearly minded to support the guy and think he's good for politics, just watch it and imagine that during this conversation with me, instead of speaking to you person to person in a decent way, I just constantly interrupted you and talked about myself and said how great I was and how smarter I was than everybody else.
Yeah. As I said to your switchboard, Sheila, you've got to appreciate, I didn't see the press conference, I only caught the headline, but I've seen him in press conference before, and what I've noticed about a lot of the media who sit in that White House when he's doing the press conference, whether it's be him or his White House spokesman, Sean Spicer, is they sit there all high and mighty, all think they're above the American public, which they're not, and they try and have a pop at Donald Trump, ask him questions, left-wing questions, try and catch him out and things.
No, Mark, they're not asking. No, Mark, they're not asking left-wing questions. They are asking questions of their president. That's the role of journalists, and you know who they do that job on the part of? People.
Well, yeah, I know they do. Well, apparently they do. I don't believe that for one moment, because some of the questions they're asking him are
well, you just said you haven't seen it. You just said you didn't see it.
The President of the United States has been voted in by the American people.
I know.
In a democratic election, okay? So he is speaking for the American people, okay? Now, the situation with Russia, I understand that Michael has explained to you switchboard. Michael Flynn has resigned over talks he's had with Russia. He's done the honourable thing by falling on his sword, and that's the correct thing to do, because I believe he might have had a few words with Russia over certain things, and he's done the honourable thing by resigning. So that matter's cleared up. Now, it seems to me in the media, not all the media in the US, but the media in the US and over here are trying to have a pop at Donald Trump simply because he's Donald Trump. Now, the man has been voted in a democratic election held in the States by the American people, and they voted him, okay? A lot of people voted for Hillary Clinton. I understand that. It's a democratic election. But the man is the President of the United States.
Yes, he is the President of the United States.
He's only been the President for a month.
And just
give him a year to see what happens.
Okay.
And I think he'll do 4 years, and I actually think he'll do 8 years.
8, okay. Well, we'll see. And Mark, just on that question of Michael Flynn, just so we can keep things factual, on the question of Michael Flynn, you are right, he resigned, but it became clear in that press conference yesterday, which if you take the time to look, you'll see, it became clear out of the mouth of Donald Trump himself that he was fired by Donald Trump. Donald Trump used the words, I fired him I fired him. And he fired him not because he'd spoken to the Russian ambassador about sanctions. He even went on to say that he would have encouraged him to do that. He fired him because he lied to the vice president. That's what he said in the press conference. So the being allowed to resign when you've been fired is just, it's just an act of kindness to an outgoing, to a person you're sacking. But just to be clear, Mark, you've come on and you've said a few things, and not all of them are correct. And that's all I'm saying. And that Donald Trump says lots of things that aren't correct.
Well, I believe I've said a lot of things that are correct. And with Michael Flynn, you've got to remember, as Donald Trump said himself, because we're talking about the Russian thing, so we're also talking about Vladimir Putin, is that Donald Trump says you've got to try and be friends with Vladimir Putin, get him on your side, not go against the man. So I don't know what was said with Michael Flynn and Russia, but I assume, and I'm assuming, you can read into it, I assume it's something to do with Putin, and perhaps Michael Flynn and Donald Trump have spoken to each other about this.
It was to do with sanctions, and it was obviously decided that it was he broke a law, but it was to do with sanctions, and the president himself said in that press conference, which I urge you to take the time, get yourself a cup of tea and a plate of biscuits and watch the press conference. You won't regret it. Mark in Loughton, very much a Trump supporter. A lot of you saying my question, will he be there by Christmas, is just inviting calls from people who oppose Trump, but clearly they don't. We've had plenty of people who support him and lots of texts and tweets from people who support him as well and don't find him as discomforting a character as I do. Do you think he'll be there by Christmas? 0345 6060973 is the number. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. Coming up, we'll talk to one of the reporters who put a question to Donald Trump at the conference last night. The time is 2:31. Just so you know, before I came on air, I was toying with the idea of behaving like Donald Trump in every call that I took for the first 10, 15 minutes or so. And when I started doing it, I just couldn't maintain it. I didn't have the heart to be so rude to people as to constantly shut them down and talk nonsense about myself in the meantime and just constantly say how great I was, because I don't think I'm great all the time. And I don't want to sit there like a narcissist saying, yeah, I'm great, I'm doing great things, I'm the most popular person ever. All of that stuff that you saw Donald Trump do repeatedly in that press conference yesterday, and it made him look so odd and insane. Well, if not insane, then strange. He behaves like a strange man. He behaves in a strange way. I just don't think that's even debatable, is it? It's not even is anyone arguing that he doesn't when he communicates with people? And I'm asking you whether you think he'll still be in power by Christmas. 0345 6060973, the number to call. You can text 84850 or tweet at LBC. Jake Turks is a Jewish reporter, Hasidic Jewish reporter, who questioned Donald Trump at the conference last night. And he's White House correspondent for Ami magazine. Let's hear, it's a small US weekly magazine that caters to the international Orthodox Jewish community. Let's just have a listen to how that question and answer went.
Despite what some of my colleagues may have been reporting, I haven't seen anybody in my community accuse either yourself or anyone on your staff of being anti-Semitic. We understand that you have Jewish grandchildren. You are their Zaidi. However, what we are concerned about, and what we haven't really heard being addressed, is an uptick in anti-Semitism and how the government is planning to take care of it. There's been a report out that 48 bomb threats have been made against Jewish centers all across the country in the last couple of weeks. There are people who are committing anti-Semitic acts or threatening to.
You see, he said he was going to ask a very simple, easy question. And it's not.
It's an important
It's not a simple question, not a fair question. Okay, sit down. I understand the rest of your question. So here's the story, folks. Number one, I am the least anti-Semitic person that you've ever seen in your entire life. Number two, racism, the least racist person. In fact, we did very well relative to other people running as a Republican. Quiet, quiet, quiet. See, he lied about he was going to get up and ask a very straight, simple question. So, it's welcome to the world of the media.
Quiet, quiet, quiet. That was the bit that got me most, I have to say. Jake Turks joins me now to talk about that exchange and the atmosphere in that room at the time and the very fact of that press conference. Jake, hello, good afternoon to you. Hi,
it's great to be with you.
How did it feel to have your question responded to like that?
It's interesting that My whole life, people have been telling me to sit down and be quiet, and I haven't really listened to them. But then that one moment, I just decided to follow instructions, and I did exactly what I was told. And it was actually kind of strange because I wasn't used to that. But it was a very unique and rare opportunity. So I guess I'm grateful for that just the same.
You're grateful for the opportunity to have put the question, but why did you sit down?
I was a little taken aback, but I was also a little bit concerned because I know that this issue of anti-Semitism is a very, very big concern for not just Jews in the United States or in Britain, but also around the world. But you know what else is a very big concern as well is when people are unfairly called anti-Semitic, as the president has been for the last 2 years by many in the American media, and the fact that the president has had such close relationships with the Jewish community for practically his entire life. And I've seen this firsthand for the last 2 years while covering him on the campaign and during the transition, that this is something that he is very, very sensitive to. And many in my community are very hopeful about this. The fact that the president is so sensitive about anti-Semitism that he found it necessary to respond so quickly and harshly. And it's regretful that the earlier part of my statement was something that perhaps was lost in translation somewhere.
But well, it's interesting how you interpret what his response was, because I interpret it rather differently. He simply did not address the heart of your question, which was, is the presidency going to take any action? Is the administration going to take any action to alleviate and to deal with this increase in anti-Semitic incidents? And he took offence at the question, Jake.
Right. So let me tell you two things. First of all, a day earlier, when the president was escorting the prime minister out to his vehicle, I got a chance to shoot out a question at him about how did the meeting go? Is there anything you want me to report back to the Jewish community? And he responded, everything went great, it went well, and they were smiling and giving thumbs up. And I've had many opportunities to ask him questions in the past. So he's always been very, very forthcoming in answering questions. The fact that he didn't answer yesterday's question was unusual because he always has answered questions. The second part is that because he's always been so forthcoming, we are very confident that as soon as this is all sorted out, that his top administration officials will sit down with top community leaders and figure out what the executive branch of the federal government of the United States can do to help stop anti-Semitism.
But why not address it sensibly in the exchange with you in that case? Well, he took offence where there was clearly no offence directed at him.
You know, that's an excellent question, but you're asking the wrong person. I don't know why he did what he did. If I did, then I would be president of the United States. So I clearly wish I would be able to get into his mind. But the case being that I can't, I'm just going to have to say I wish you all the luck in the world that he goes on the program with you, because this is a question I would be very curious to hear an answer to. But I myself cannot answer this.
Will you put the question to him again at the earliest opportunity, one way or another?
I don't know if that will be helpful. I think at this point it will be more helpful to actually work behind closed doors. And when I say work, I don't mean myself. I mean community leaders with administration officials should work behind closed doors to try to sort this issue out. I don't think this issue necessarily needs any more exposure at this point. I think that it's been covered adequately enough, and because I expect there to be some kind of follow-up in the coming days, I'm not concerned that this is something I'll have to ask again. Am I prepared to ask it again if I have to? Absolutely. This is my job. This is why I get to cover the White House. Reporters aren't taught how to be intimidated. That's one of the things they don't teach us to do. So if I have to ask it, then yes, I would definitely ask it. But I don't believe that would come up. That this.
And you don't feel you were intimidated yesterday.
Look, I've never felt the way I felt yesterday, and I've never felt intimidated before. So it could be that these are two separate feelings that I'm just not familiar with, or it could be that this is what intimidation feels like. I do not know. If I feel this way a second time, I might have a better understanding of...
Can you try and describe to me how you felt when... I was watching it live at home, and I was appalled for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's interesting. It was a sensation that I have a difficult time articulating, because it's when you're trying to do one thing and you want to do the absolute right thing, and you spend a lot of time trying to figure out the best way how to do it, and then you see the results come out the literal exact opposite of everything that you had assumed would happen, and you just freeze and say, what? And then you can't say anything after. It's just what, with like a few 100,000 exclamation points. Now, I know that like on Twitter, you can't put too many exclamation points or because you have 140 characters, but in my mind, it could go on indefinitely. It's a bunch of exclamation points like, huh? And no other words after that.
Do you think he is fit to be president?
He was, let's see, what are the rules of the U.S. Constitution? He is a natural-born U.S. citizen, check. Lived in the United States for 14 years, check. Is over 35 years of age, check. Was democratically elected and voted in by the majority of the Electoral College, check. So according to the Constitution, he is fit to be president of the United States. If anybody wants to change the rules in any way, which I don't see happening, I don't know, but you have to realize that there have been presidents that were unprecedented to various degrees, but they won the election, and everybody had to go ahead with it. When Andrew Jackson won, it was something that people had never experienced before. When Zachary Taylor won, it was something people had never experienced before, and people just got used to it after a while. So this is a president that is very much different from other presidents, and usually we don't judge a president until about 20 years after his presidency is ended. So I don't think that judging the president of the United States right now is something that too many historians would be doing.
One of my listeners, Liam, has tweeted to say he's listening to our conversation, and he says, the reporter sounds like he's been censored. Unusual response.
Well, that's a very fair and valid question, and I am not being censored. I am actually right now I'm in a private residence right now. There's nobody else in the room with me. We are having a friendly conversation, and I'm just trying to be very sensitive to the fact that the president has been extremely gracious to the members of my community, and I can give you countless examples of things that he's done before being president, and things that he's done.
Oh, that's good. That's fantastic. That's fantastic to hear. That's great to hear, and it's a great perspective to have from you, Jake. And I wasn't. I hope you don't think that in this conversation I was trying to suggest that Donald Trump is anti-Semitic. I was more concerned about the manner in which he goes about, for example, press conferences with journalists as clearly decent and clear-sighted as yourself.
Look, let's be clear over here. I don't know you, and I don't know Liam, but I would venture to take a guess that neither of us three have been attacked repeatedly every single day for 2 years straight on every single thing that was said and done. Deserve it or not is not the issue. The issue is that this man has been under attack, and this one particular issue, which is anti-Semitism, is something that. I have a very interesting analogy for you right now. Okay. You asked me how I felt when the president of the United States misunderstood what I was trying to say, or somehow the words somehow got lost in the large and noisy room, and he threw it right back at me, and how I felt. Let me ask you this: somebody who has Jewish grandchildren, Jewish children. Grand Marshal at the Israeli Day Parade, has worked with the Jewish community and done many charitable events with the Jewish community, most of which, by the way, away from the cameras. And I know these stories because I know the people that happened to, and I know that Mr. Trump did not seek any publicity.
Right.
And for someone like that to be accused of being anti-Semitic for 2 years straight would probably be the equivalency of those 4 seconds of what I went through, but only for 2 entire years. So imagine me being told by the President of the United States for 2 years straight to sit down and
I understand. I understand the analogy.
So I do not blame him for his frustration, and I share his frustration. And this is not because I'm being censored. This is because I've seen reports of events that I've been at. I've seen reports of incidents described that I witnessed, described by reporters who weren't there, and reporters who, in many cases, aren't even Jewish, described as anti-Semitic. And I was there, and I said, no, that is absolutely wrong. Why would you even say that? So,
no, I understand that. You've made it clear a number of times that you are very supportive of the work he's done against anti-Semitism.
Right, and I'm not a Trump surrogate. I'm not a Trump spokesperson. Half of my readers think I'm pro-Trump and half think I'm anti-Trump. So the only thing, my objective right now is to clarify that under no circumstances is this individual an anti-Semite, and based on what we know about his staff there, none of them have any record of anti-Semitism, and the community, the Orthodox Jewish community, is very comfortable with the people he's chosen so far.
But all of those fine words that you've said about the private work that the Trump family have done within various Jewish communities make his response to your question all the more baffling, Jake.
Actually, but you can look at it the other way around, because look at how much it bothers him. Just the mere thought that somehow he was in any way being tied into this is something that he finds so repulsive and frustrating that he will fight back and push back as hard as he can, regardless of how it might make me feel. And he knows that I look a little bit conspicuous in that particular setting, and he didn't care. He didn't try to treat me with kid gloves. He went out and he set the record. What he believed and felt at the time was setting the record straight in as strong a manner as possible.
But your question wasn't about him. Your question was about Jewish people being attacked by other people, and he took it to be about him.
That's right. I was there. I actually still have, right now with me, I still have the notepad where I wrote the.
But it's odd, isn't it? It's odd. That's the thing I'm trying to get to, that this man's self-centeredness seemed to be on display here. You were not asking about him. You were asking about Jewish people being safe, and he took offense.
You know, let's just say that he does not like to eat apples. And I charged him or said something about him and apples in the same sentence. I don't think he would be at all disturbed by it.
But you didn't.
To this issue, and we're going to get clarification. Look, we are going to get closure on this, and as I told you earlier, I will definitely be ready to ask this question again if no clarification is provided. But I'm fairly confident the clarification will be provided.
Clarification of what?
Clarification as what the administration's stance and position is, and what the president believes is within the purview of the executive branch of the federal government to do about anti-Semitism.
Okay. Well, when you get that response, I would love to talk to you again, Jake.
Absolutely, and I'll just tell you that I've had the opportunity over the years to interview many presidential candidates, and I've asked this question to some of them, and many of them took this as an opportunity to answer the question, but they didn't have the kind of backlash that this individual has.
Okay, Jake, I'm going to leave it there if I may, simply because of the logistics of the programme, not to cut you short. Thank you, Jake Turks, the Jewish reporter who questioned Donald Trump at the conference last night. Very interesting replies from Jake on all of that. That the personal attacks that Donald Trump has taken on anti-Semitism over the years have rendered him super sensitive, hence that response. That was essentially what Jake was saying. But the very same president spent years accusing the former president of not being American. He managed to keep his cool. It's 2:52. Well, now, after my interview with Jake, the Hasidic Jewish reporter who was put down yesterday verbally by Donald Trump, a lot of you, really mixed response here. But two very distinct responses from you. One response from a lot of you is, you didn't see that coming, did you? No, I did not see that coming. You're absolutely right. I didn't see Jake's very emollient response to Donald Trump coming at all. But no, I do not think or know with any certainty or facts that Donald Trump is anti-Semitic. I do not think that Donald Trump is necessarily racist. I think he's clumsy. I think he comes up with some bizarre policies. I think his behaviour, as evidenced by that press conference yesterday, is bizarre. But you're wrong if you think that I was trying to elicit from Jake evidence that Donald Trump is anti-Semitic or racist. I was trying to elicit from Jake how it felt to be, I was going to say the word abused, but maybe that's too strong, to be put down by Donald Trump. And his response was fascinating to many of you, lots of you feeling, as I did, that he was being very careful with how he communicated. And that could just be a simple case of wanting to keep his seat in the White House press corps. I don't know. Sarah's called from Tunbridge. Hello, Sarah.
Oh, hi. Yes, I found really frightening what Jake said when he said regarding Trump's unusual behaviour, to put it mildly, was we could get used to it. And I thought, my God, that is the most frightening thing I've heard. I genuinely think that is terrifying. I don't want to get used to it. I don't think we should get used to it. He is not the right man for the job. And the trouble is, I think Jake may be right, because humans are frighteningly adaptable. That's why we can, watch slaves in a field and just see them as, par for the course. That's why people can go and live in Dubai, Westerners, who know that many of the buildings have been built by what amounts to serfdom, and be happy there. And I found yesterday's speech by Trump, apart from
press conference,
whatever you want to call it, sounded like a speech, 75 minutes.
I'll tell you what just came into my head.
Was when he said, putting his team together, he had done it better than any other president. Now, this is a man who has, as far as I remember, admitted he gets most of his information from television. I don't know how he has time, frankly, to do anything else, as he seems to watch television.
Do you think he'll be there by Christmas, Sarah?
No, hopefully not. But as a man who probably has never read an autobiography or biography by a president, how he can possibly say he's at the best at the job and he has a well-oiled machine?
I know. Well, history will tell in the long run, won't it? But we don't have history on our side just yet today. Thank you, Sarah, for your call, Sarah in Tunbridge. So many of you are calling in response to that interview I just did with Jake Turks, the Hasidic Jewish reporter who questioned Donald Trump at the conference last night. He's a White House correspondent for Ami magazine. So many of you are calling in response to it that we're going to carry on taking your calls on this subject till 3:15. We're not listening a few minutes ago. You'll have missed an interview with Jake Turks, the Hasidic Jewish reporter who put a question to Donald Trump at that long press conference yesterday evening, UK time, and was slapped down, essentially, by him when he asked a perfectly fair question and was not sort of aggressive or offensive or even disparaging towards Donald Trump at all. The question wasn't about Donald Trump. And I was very surprised to find that Jake Turks, although he was, he said in the interview, he was stunned by the reaction, and he did sit down very suddenly when he was told to do so after a lifetime of not being told to sit down, of not sitting down and being quiet when he was told to. He was stunned into submission, essentially, by Donald Trump. But he then went on to explain, as he sees it, the reason why Donald Trump might have done that. And his theory is that the reason is that Donald Trump has spent 2 years being wrongly accused of being anti-Semitic, and that he misheard the question potentially, or anyway, he was absolutely prepared to take what Donald Trump offered. And a lot of you saying by text that I was trying to make him offended by something he wasn't offended by. I wasn't. I was trying to get to the bottom of how he felt at that moment, because anyone who watched that moment will have seen a very uncomfortable moment, a difficult moment, when a man in a position of power slapped down a person not in a position of power. And if you really, really think that's not what was happening there, give me a call and tell me why. 0345 6060 973. We'll put that interview with Jake up on the LBC website, and I'll tweet it if I can as well a little later if you wanted to take another listen or listen for the first time. Patricia's called from High Wycombe. Hello, Patricia.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sheila. I love you, and you're usually very even in your assumptions, when you deal with things. But in this one, I really think you were trying to get that reporter to come around and say that, Donald Trump. Listen.
And say what? No. What did you think I was trying to get the reporter to say?
I think you were trying to get him to say, yeah, he really is anti-Semitic.
I really wasn't. Do you know why? Do you know why I can say with absolute certainty that I was not seeking that? Because that's not what I thought or think. I didn't think at the time I saw that moment in that press conference, that Donald Trump was being anti-Semitic to that young lad, because he was a young man, he's a young journalist. I thought he was being desperately rude and overbearing and bullying to him. That's all. I wanted to get a sense what Jake felt. I didn't think it was an anti-Semitic moment. I thought it was just one in a litany in that press conference of extremely rude moments, and I wanted to know why.
Maybe he is a very rude man. But the thing is about Donald Trump at the moment, it's getting to a stage where everything you hear on the media are anti-Donald Trump. And it's gone too far now, because the United States have had presidents that are really awful. So, I don't think he's the worst. He's got to have a chance. He's only been in there a while. And actually, he's doing what he said when he was coming, to be voted for. And the American people have voted for him. And I don't think we should keep going on about him all the time like we are. That's all you hear all the time. He's not the worst president in the United States. I could tell you a lot more.
All right. Well, what was interesting was he had a whole hour there to expound on what he'd been doing and what his great ideas were. And he didn't. He just said, stop being mean to me, in about 50 different ways. Thank you, Patricia, for your call. Frank's call from Andover in Hampshire. Hello, Frank.
Hi, Sheila. Thank you. I'm a U.S.-UK dual citizen. I've lived here for over 30 years, but I didn't grow up here. And as far as I'm concerned, I did not want Hillary Clinton to win, and I did not want Donald Trump to win, and I did not think that Donald Trump was a great representative of America. So just so I want you to know, I don't have an axe to grind.
Okay.
But I'm a very practical guy, and I think Jake was a practical guy. What Jake basically said was, look, first of all, remember the Washington press corps is like a rugby scrum, excuse me. It's like a
Freudian slip, Frank.
I know.
Thought you said you didn't have an agenda.
Yeah, well, maybe I did. But the deal is, the All Blacks play England. There's no shy people in that group. Everybody's used to it. So his reaction is not going to be the same as your reaction or my reaction. And what he basically said was, look, I know this guy. I trust this guy to give me straight answers. I don't think that he's a boogeyman. And so I was there. So that's what he was saying. But people are saying, you had another woman after there that said that Trump is the last man that should be in that position, that he's not suitable for that position. Well, guess what? I thought Brexit was a terrible idea. I was furious in June when I heard the news in the morning, and I think it was a Friday, and I allowed myself to be pissed off about it all day. And then I let it go, because I'll tell you, I can't give oxygen to something that I can't change. And I then listened for months. I think in August I stopped listening. I only listened to talk radio, LBC mostly, and I had to stop listening to LBC because people were on there saying ludicrous things. They're saying Brexit's working. Brexit's not a terrible thing. That Brexit is the answer to everything. That Brexit is this. People were saying things that we won't know for 2 or 3 years. And I thought, I can't spend my time listening to people just give the same point of view in different ways. Some are for, some are against. This is a waste of my time.
And what's your link to Trump with this?
Well, my link to Trump is I believe he is the president now.
Well, he is, clearly.
He is the president, and that isn't going to change. But this woman said he shouldn't be in there. Well, that's not the conversation to be having. We should have had that conversation before.
Yeah, I agree with you. He should be in there because he won the election. He should be the president and is the president. But my question earlier on was, will he survive till Christmas?
Well, here's the thing. I think your attitude about him, and a lot of people's attitudes, I don't mean to pick on you, but a lot of people's attitudes are,
it's all right.
I want to talk about why this doesn't make sense to me. I want to talk about why I'm frustrated that I can't get the answers I want. I want to talk about the fact that he's in there, and people are pulling their hair out. I watch 3 or 4 networks for news. CNN, which used to be reasonable, is now, these journalists are furious at Mr. Trump. And I'm not blaming them, because he is exasperating. And the Fox News they think that he's the second coming. I mean, both of them are ridiculous, but you can't get the straight story by just listening to one.
But Frank, when you say they're furious at Donald Trump, when you looked at the exchanges yesterday, if I'd been in that room and been one of the, either if it was directed at me or at one of my colleagues, I'd be furious at the manner in which he behaves. Are you not furious about the way? Because apart from anything else, it makes I've got one of those hats next to me here, "Make America Great Again." It makes America look stupid.
It does. I mean, that is
the ugly American.
Here's what I'm saying. I think that it is a waste of our time to be sitting here thinking that we're going to change him. And therefore, I think we have to get smart. If you are a salesperson, which I've been all my life, and you deal with somebody who's very difficult, I don't go in there and tell him he's wrong. I go in there and I try to find a way to communicate with him.
So what do you say, Frank, to all of those people? You said that Jake Turks, the journalist, was being practical, and you're a practical man, a pragmatic guy. To all those people who've tweeted me and said things like, that guy's got Stockholm syndrome, or that guy's surely got a gun to his head when he's saying this, or that guy is afraid of saying anything out of turn, he's a self-censoring journalist, he was treated very disparagingly, he backed down because he was slapped down. What do you say to them?
Well, first of all, I don't think that he was a self-serving journalist or anything else. I think he was just in there and he was facing my attitude about Brexit and about Trump is, I've got to play the cards I'm dealt. That's what he did. And I believe that if this happens every single time he gets there, he may change in the next interview that he has with you. But I think we have to change, because in my view, watching that conference yesterday, I thought Trump doesn't really listen. He's out there and he's trying to do it, but he doesn't listen. Now, he didn't listen to Jake because he didn't answer the question, but he rarely answers the question. You know, he doesn't go direct on this. You tell me the last time somebody asked him a direct question, didn't take 4 questions to get there. And the people in that scrum are really so frustrated that they can't get the answers to these questions.
But does it worry you? Does it worry you that a young Jewish reporter who was without question slapped down wrongly at that press conference by the president, does it worry you that his response to it was so emollient, so soft? No,
it doesn't. No, and I'll tell you why it doesn't. And this is the difference between me and. Well, first of all, I grew up in New York. Everybody I knew in New York sounded exactly like Jake. We were all Irish, Italian, or Jewish. We grew up there. Everybody had the same thing. So I'm very familiar with his accent. I didn't sense anything from him. Here's the reason why. He does not need Donald Trump, what is pro-Israel or something that is anti-Semitic. He knows that, and he's in the Orthodox community. They know what that is. Now, if you go to Florida, you may find another representative down there.
One of the biggest myths about HPV is that it's different from genital.
This thing. That guy, Jake, was not worried. He knew exactly where he stood. So, no, he wasn't upset by that because he knows that's the way Trump is. Trump will say, no, let me talk. Which, by the way, you haven't done to me at all. And that's how I would expect to treat you and you to treat me. Trump's not like that. When are we going to stop expecting him to be like us? So what do? Number one, you don't listen to every word he said. When he was running for office, he was saying he was going to build a wall. He was saying that he was going to put a ban on Muslims. Look, America's a constitutional democracy. You cannot keep people out because of their religion. It's illegal. The Syrians, he talked about the Syrians letting the Christians in, but not the Muslims in. That's illegal. You can't do that. I believe in the American Constitution. They're going to do that, and somebody has to be reminding him that, which they have.
Okay.
I believe in the people in America. I believe in the Constitution in America, and we've got to stop waiting for him to do that. Listen to what he's saying, but don't get upset that it's rude, that it's barking, that it's not professional. It's not that's who we elected.
It is. You're right, Frank. Thank you for the call, Frank in Andover.